Once you've finished setting up your query, you'll be presented with a query creation screen. From here, you can select exactly what information you want to bring back in your extraction. On the left-hand side of the screen, we've got a list of fields split into groups. And below that, we've got a list of measures split into groups as well. These contain all of the different types of information that you can bring into your query. Fields tend to be text-based information, and measures are much more likely to be calculated fields with numerical values. Up the top here, we've got these two drop-downs, one for crosstab and one saying sample data. The very first thing you need to do when you build any new query is to click on sample data and change it to no data. This will stop your query running every single time you make a change, and it will only run when you're ready to execute the query. This will speed up the process for you. Similarly, what we're going to do now is, because we're going to look at a table first, I'm going to change this from crosstab to table. Over on the right, we have this drop-down bar that can be expanded from the right that says filters. And if we click on that, you'll get this bar appearing, into which you can put the filters to select your data. We're in the assault and abuse domain at the moment, and I'm going to put some filters on to specify exactly the sort of information I'm looking for. So I'm going to drop into date and time, open that up, and find the last 13 full period indicator. If you hover over it, you'll get a tooltip that says that it indicates if the event occurred during one of the last 13 full railway periods. You can either click and drag, or right-click and select Create Filter. That will bring this field across into your filters column. And once it's finished loading, you'll be able to select exactly how you want that filter to operate. Here you'll have the last 13 full period indicator equals no in your filters. For this instance, we want this to equal yes, because we want the event to have occurred in the last 13 full periods. So if you click on this value of no, you'll be presented with a drop down with the options. We're going to select yes. You'll notice that down here at the bottom, this blue icon that says apply has lit up. This suggests that whenever you apply a new filter, or when you put a new filter into the system, you must click apply in order for it to be active. If you don't click apply, the filter will not operate, even though you've set it up to go on the right hand side. Once you're happy with the filters that you've applied, you can start to bring back fields and measures to build your query. In this instance, I'm going to start in the General Event Details folder, which gives you general information about the event that occurred. I'm going to scroll down to SMIS reference. You can either drag it up and drop it into columns, or you can right-click, select Add as Column. I'm also going to bring back a couple of very useful fields within this called Description and Narrative. These fields give a written account as to what happened in the event. Description is often a shorter one, and narrative being a much more detailed version. In addition to this, we probably want to know when the event occurred. So I'm going to go to date and time and bring back event date, which will tell us when the incident occurred. Furthermore, I'm going to drop down to location and bring back place. This will let us know where the event occurred. Now, all three of these folders within the fields, being location, general event details, and date and time, are common to all domains in Jaspersoft. However, because we're in the assault and abuse domain, we also have a folder called assault and abuse. This folder gives us specific information that's only available within this domain, and it gives detailed information about the type of assault and abuse that occurred. The most useful one we're going to use right now, for this instance, is assault abuse type, and this describes the type of assault or abuse that took place. Once you're happy with the fields that you've selected, you can click on this No Data drop-down and set it to full data. This will bring back all events that meet the requirements set out in your filters. And here you can see we've returned some values. As you can see, the narrative column is quite thin, and there's an awful lot of information there. It's stretching out the entire table. So as with any table in multiple pieces of software, you can click there and drag it out to resize it. It makes it a little bit better to look at. In addition to this, if, for example, you wanted to see how many times each different assault and abuse type had occurred, we can take this field and drop it down to groups. This will then group the information by the type of assault abuse that occurred. Up here, we've got a blank section. These did not have the type of assault and abuse entered into SMIS. As we scroll down, you'll see that we've got quite a lot of events, and it's difficult to be able to know exactly how many we've got. So up here to the left, we've got this cog icon. At the moment, we're set to detailed data, and that gives you all of the information that returns from SMIS. You get these filled out text fields. If we select totals data, however, and wait for that to load, it will split out the different types of assault and abuse based on what was entered in SMIS. So we've got abuse non-physical, we've got events that involved abuse non-physical and threatened indecent exposure, we've got events here that were attempted physical assault, and so on. You've also got an option called details and totals, and what this does is provides the original set of data as you saw in the detailed data, but it will also provide subtotals below each section. Furthermore, if you decide you've built your query and then decide you don't like the order that things are in, I could take event date here and I could drag it back to anywhere in the list and it will reformat the table for you. It might similarly be useful to organize your data based on recency. So I'm going to right click on event date and you get this drop down. And you've got a few options here, but the one we're going to look at is use for sorting. If you use for sorting here, it will automatically filter with this arrow pointing upwards for the oldest events first, chronologically working downwards. If we were to click this and flip it, it will then give us the most recent events first, all the way down to the oldest. And that works within each section that we've selected in our groups. If you remove the groups entirely, it will just give a chronological order for all events that have returned. If you ever want to change any of the titles of fields, for example, place, you might think this isn't the most intuitive name for a geographical location. So if you right click on that, edit label, we can change place to location. Once you're happy with the way your table looks and you've been able to extract the information that you would like, you should always save your query. By going save ad hoc view as, you then give your folder a name, and within this you get the folder structure that we're familiar with from the repository. I'm going to open up SMIS Plus build, I'm going to scroll down to my organization and save my folder within my folder there. You press save, it should wind away, and then your query will be saved within your folder in Jaspersoft. Once you've saved, you'll see this yellow bar across the top that says save was successful. Also useful across this bar, we've got this eye icon, which toggles between the design and display modes. Currently, we're in the design mode. If I click this, it will take us to the display mode, which tidies up your screen slightly and just presents you in a simpler format. If you click back off it, you'll be returned to the screen you were just on. Up here, you've got an export button. This is one of the most useful buttons. This is how you can actually gain useful information out of your queries once they're done. You've got a range of formats in which you can export, such as PDF, CSV, doc for Word, PowerPoint, XLS, and so on. If you'd ever like to include a field but can't find it, or think that one should exist but you don't know where it is, you can use this free text box to search at the top. Within here, we can look for any word or phrase that might be part of a field name. So for this one, I'm going to use the word type. And if I search for that, it'll bring back every field where the word type is included in the title. It's not case sensitive, and it doesn't matter what comes before or after, but this can be quite useful for finding things such as person type or physical assault type. In addition to this, you can use partial strings. So if I type tra, you'll get everything that comes. So you'll also get words with train, you'll get tracks, and so on. So it can be useful to help you find a field that you think should be there. That concludes everything that we're going to look at with regards to tables. Now we're going to show you how to use one of the other forms of data export in Jaspersoft, crosstabs.